Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1024, Saturday, January 25th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, as you can hear, I'm still sick, still got the head cold. I actually felt better today. The last 2 days was pretty rough, but I still got the head cold, and I do appreciate all the well wishes in the comment section, as well as all the various remedies that I could take to try to get rid of this cold. Fortunately, it's just a head cold, no flu or anything like that. But it's kind of sticking with me, so I'm going to try to get through the video today because there are a couple really important stories to talk about. So hopefully I'll get through this video and without breaking into a coughing or sneezing fit. So we'll see how I do. Okay, so in case you haven't heard, probably the most important TowerGate, Spygate story that's broken in a very, very long time, probably since we found out, who paid for the dossier, I would think. This is a major story that we're about to talk about, and it's a major story because it essentially it's a game changer because it truly changes the narrative. It proves that what we have been talking about here for a very long time on TowerGate, as well as other people, about the spying on the Trump campaign, absolutely did happen, not a conspiracy theory. And now we have the Department of the Obstruction of Justice now coming out and having to admit it, and we'll talk about why they did that here in just a few minutes. First of all, here's the basic rundown of the news. The Department of the Obstruction of Justice has now admitted in writing to the FISA court that the first and second renewals, FISA renewals on Carter Page, the April and June 2016 renewals on Carter Page, were invalid, meaning illegal. The Department of the Obstruction of Justice has now taken a position on the Department of the Obstruction of Justice has not taken a position on the validity of the original application, which is still under investigation by Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz and John Durham. Judge Boasberg released the legal brief and order from the DOJ in response to the FISA court's request to the DOJ and explanation for the issues with the Carter Page FISA. As a result, the FBI will now have to produce all information and evidence that stemmed from the Page FISA warrants, including material that was collected during the Mueller investigation. That is called searching for the fruit of the poisonous tree. And by the way, the collateral damage is where Uncle Bob comes into play. Uncle Bob the Executioner, collateral damage. Everyone Page talked to and everyone those people talked to were surveilled. That would likely include Manafort, Kushner, and even possibly Trump himself. This ruling also affects any legal proceedings that may have resulted, which may affect everyone that Uncle Bob the Executioner charged and jailed, including Papadopoulos, Flynn, Manafort, and the Dutch lawyer. Boasberg is asking the FBI, what did the FBI do with the Title I surveillance warrant they received from the court? What material did they collect? Was the material then used in other proceedings and disseminated to Department of Justice prosecutors and other persons outside the FBI? Now, we know Carter Page was framed by Halper to justify the initial attention to Page, and the dossier was the evidence that was used to get the FISA, which they knew was BS. Hence, the Department of the Obstruction of Justice's mission to the FISA court. As I said earlier, this is a game changer. Comey, McCabe, Rodenstein, and Dana Buente all signed off on these FISAs that are in question here, the second and third FISA renewals. Uncle Bob, the executioner, also had to know that the evidence was fraudulent. This is going to open 1,000 doors, and it leads everywhere. So, why did the DOJ have to admit and release the document? That is the big question. So, let's go back and sort of hash out what we're talking about here. So, the FISA court had sent an order to the Department of Justice and the FBI with a series of questions saying, hey, you need to explain what you did here, 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 and here. And the result is, of course, the Department of Justice having to come back to the FISA court with this document basically saying, hey, we can't explain it. There is no explanation for at least what we know now, the second and third FISA should never have happened. It was illegal. We are still investigating the first and second. Of course, we know how that's going to turn out because we know that the first FISA warrant was based on the Steele dossier and everything after that. So that will eventually come into play as well. Probably the most, I would say, the most bombshell thing here that we're talking about is the fact that it's now official. The Department of the Obstruction of Justice has now had to come out and officially admit that they illegally spied on Carter Page. And keep in mind, Carter Page was not the target. He was just the window to look into the Trump campaign. Trump was the target. Carter Page was the vehicle they used to get to Trump. That's the first big thing. The next big thing is that because of the fruit of the poisonous tree theory that we find in these types of legal matters, when you find that the evidence was corrupted, then they have to go back and look at any other cases that came as a result of that dirty evidence. So this is the process now that the FISA court has told the DOJ and the FBI, okay, now you got to go back and look at every single case in which any information from the Carter Page FISA was used to launch investigations or what have you. Now keep in mind, Carter Page was the only FISA that we know about. So once they got the Carter Page FISA, that gets them into the inner circle of Trump campaign and including Trump himself because of the two-hop rule. The two-hop rule says if you get a FISA on Carter Page, you get to surveil everyone Carter Page talked to and then everyone that they talked to. So if Carter Page likely talked to Manafort or Kushner, so you get to listen to everyone Manafort and Kushner talked to, but you also get to listen to everyone that Manafort and Kushner talked to as well. So you get this two-step. So that puts you right into Trump himself, most certainly. But now they have to go back and look at every one of these, any piece of evidence that was obtained or used in their investigation, in the prosecutions, in any other cases, which would be Papadopoulos, Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, Manafort, the Dutch lawyer, probably even the Russian trolls. Any evidence that was used as a result of the tainted information they got from the tainted FISAs, the two illegal FISAs on Carter Page, those cases are now going to be thrown out. Not only that, there will be further legal ramifications for those individuals who were involved in that criminal activity. Of course, this leads to, as I said, this leads to opening 1,000 doors. Because now they're going to have to get into the Mueller investigation. Because this final FISA that they got, which has now been admitted to by the DOJ as being illegal, occurred during the Mueller witch hunt. And that means Mueller's entire investigation will now be opened up, and they will look at everything that Mueller went after in his investigation with Andrew Wiseass, and anything that they dug up, anything that they prosecuted, anyone they prosecuted as a result of any information that came from the Carter Page FISA is now going to be likely challenged and will likely be thrown out in a court hearing. That means that all these cases that we've seen with Manafort and Stone and all the rest are probably likely now going to be thrown into total chaos, thrown into question. And of course, at this point, Carter Page had a couple of pending lawsuits. Those lawsuits are now going to be done. Those lawsuits will be settled. Page will win those lawsuits, hands down. It's not a question anymore. And then, of course, you can bet that the very next thing that Carter Page will be doing will be getting together with the Department of Justice to work out the settlement for how much they're going to be paying Carter Page for what they did to him. And it's going to be a very big number. Very big number. probably 7, 8 figures, because they put him through pure hell, destroyed his reputation, his ability to earn a living, destroyed his as a person, just as Carter Page. Family, friends, people who know him, business people, no one will touch you when you've got this kind of light being shined on you, these accusations made. They turned his life upside down. They destroyed the man, and they knew they did it all to get to Trump, and they knew it was all based on lies. A lot of people, as I said, are going to be going to jail. So the question is, what is it that made the DOJ and the FISA court have to come out, and first the DOJ having to come out and admit this, and second of all, why the FISA court judge would release this? Well, it's very simple, because they know that John Durham has been through all these FISA applications, looked at all of this stuff, including those 20 pages that we've never been able to see. Trey Gowdy, John Ratcliffe have seen those. They've already told us that they clearly exonerate Carter Page. They know that Durham has been through all this and knows all of this, and it's going to come out. So it's not like, don't look at this as like the FISA court and the DOJ finally coming clean because their conscience is getting to them, or they think it's the right thing to do to tell the truth now. They've known this for a long, long, long time. They've known this for a long time. The reason they're coming out now and having to do this is because they know that Durham has been through all this and knows it all. And likely, someone, either he's flat out told them, or someone within the DOJ who knows this has probably said, hey man, you guys better come clean and get out ahead of this thing, because Durham has got it all. And you don't want to be getting the big surprise a couple months down the road when he drops it on you and makes you look really bad, because you could be guilty of covering up all this, because they have known about this for a very long time. So this is not the DOJ and the FISA court coming clean because they're good guys, or they just changed their stripes. It's because they know that Durham has got all of this, and they're trying to get out ahead of it, because they know in a couple of months from now, when Durham's finished with his investigation, he begins indicting people. All this is going to come out, including the fact that the DOJ knew about all this. It'll come out when they knew about all this, and of course, they don't want to be caught covering all this up. It only entangles more people into it. So these are people trying to cover their ass and get out ahead of it because they know it's coming out. They can't stop it. They've been trying to stop it. They've done everything they could to stop it. And if Durham wasn't poking his nose into this, digging into this, believe me, they would still be covering this up. They're coming out with this because they have to. And this, as I said, is a major game changer. This is the DOJ admitting that they were illegally spying on the Trump campaign, and that they were knowingly illegally spying on Carter Page. Those were not errors that they made. They were purposeful acts of criminality. And this is what Durham has found. They were hoping that maybe Durham would give them a little cover and say, well, yeah, there was a lot of mistakes made, just like Horowitz. But that's not what Durham's going to do. That's Horowitz's job, is to clean up the mess and cover it up. That's not Durham's job. And he's not playing ball, obviously, and people are obviously hearing within the Department of Justice, hey, this guy John Durham, he's not going to cut you guys any slack. I can tell you right now, he knows everything that happened. He's going to drop the bomb on you guys, and you guys better get out there ahead of it and clean it up while you can, because once he drops the bomb on you, you just might have a target on you. So this is what's really driving this. This is why this all came out. But this is huge information and a huge fact that the DOJ had to come out and admit this. And it's not because they wanted to. It's because they had to. And so we can expect a lot of fallout from this. Because again, as a result of the DOJ coming out and admitting what they did, now the FISA court said, okay, now what you got to do, that you've admitted that what you did was criminally illegal, you got to go back now, because of the fruit of the poisonous tree theory, you have to go now and you have to dig into this and find any cases or any procedures that you went through that used information gained from those illegal FISA warrants, you have to present that evidence to the FISA court and all those cases, as well as to the federal courts where you took those cases, and all those cases are now going to be reviewed and likely thrown out. So the entire Mueller witch hunt, the cases that he prosecuted in the Mueller witch hunt, a lot of those cases, if not all, could likely be overturned. This is also going to shine a very bright light on the Mueller investigation, and a lot of people are going to be asking a lot of questions. What did Mueller know and when did he know it? Well, my friends, I'm telling you, Uncle Bob the Executioner and Weissman knew on day one when they started on what they were doing that it was all based on fraud. These guys are in a lot of trouble. And John Durham is not going to cover for them. I can assure you that. You can tell just from the way this is falling out. If he's willing to go after the DOJ to this extent and the FISA court, that tells you that Durham is not going to give anybody any breaks. He's absolutely going to point out the people who broke the law. That's what he's going to do. And if they were looking for cover from John Durham, it appears that it's not coming. So I expect that what we'll have as a result of this is over the next several weeks, months, more and more and more negative fallout as a result just of this. Not to mention everything else that Durham is digging into. So he's clearly ruffling a lot of feathers, making a lot of people nervous, and rightly so. And so this is, again, a major game changer. From this point forward, the narrative that Obama spying on the Trump campaign is just some sort of a conspiracy theory is dead. At this point, from this point forward, it is now established without a shadow of a doubt that the Obama administration did spy illegally on the Trump campaign. And now it's just a matter of how bad is it going to get for the perpetrators. And I expect it's going to get very bad. You can bet that people like Comey and McCabe and Strzok and all these people, they have got to be pooping themselves, let's say, right now, as a result of this release by the FISA court of this DOJ document. So we'll continue to follow the story. As I said, it will continue to have fallout from this story. We'll get fallout from this for the next several weeks and months, in addition to everything else that's going to come as a result of Durham's investigation. So there you go. Major story. And you can read all about it. I mean, there's a lot to read on this story and a lot to watch. So that's what we'll be doing. Now let's get to some other news. Well, it looks like Commie Bernie's campaign people have called the cops on Project Veritas. Now, you want to talk about authoritarian commies? This is exactly who these commies are. They don't like to be questioned about their rhetoric or anything else. So this tells you what you could expect if people like Bernie ever get in control. Here you go, calling the cops on Project Veritas for simply doing journalism. That is what you get in a communist authoritarian regime, and that's what lurks behind the sick psychopath Bernie Sanders, and his supporters and those people working for him are some psychopathic people as well. Hardcore authoritarian commies. You guys have all heard the kind of comments these people have made. That's who these people are. It's a shame that the media won't cover this and tell the truth, but that's what we expect from them as well. Well, we're hearing these rumors about Obama meeting with top-level Democrats in various places to discuss how nervous they are about the thought of Bernie maybe winning the nomination and what the hell they're going to do about it to stop him. And it appears that Obama may be prepared to come out and become more public about how bad he thinks it will be if the Democrats nominate Bernie Sanders. And that's the issue. Obama probably doesn't want to come out publicly and take that hard stance. He'd rather do it through surrogates. But that's what he's being urged to do. He's being urged to come out and publicly take a very strong stand against Bernie and to try to tell Democrat voters, do not fall for this guy's commie rhetoric. And top Democrats are, of course, encouraging him to do this. He's right now perplexed because he doesn't really want to have to do that. He would rather use surrogates, but he's being told, no, you got to come out and make a strong statement. Now, what's driving all this? Is it because they think that Bernie or Warren might win the nomination and go on to win the presidency, or do they think that Biden may be able to survive the challenge and then end up becoming president? Is that what they're looking at? No. I think it's pretty obvious to the demo commies as well as Barack Hussein Obama that Trump is going to be reelected, and if they can't force him out of office by railroading him on some impeachment, some other charge or something like that, that he is going to be reelected. They're not going to beat him fairly at the ballot box. They understand that. But what they're really concerned about is the down ballots. What they're really concerned about is that if they nominate a Bernie Sanders or an Elizabeth Warren, and possibly even someone as weak as Joe Biden, but probably wouldn't hurt him as bad with Biden as it would with the Sanders or possibly even a Warren. But if you get a Bernie Sanders nomination, so many Democrats and independents will either vote for Trump or stay home that what you could end up with is a massive, massive landslide in the Congress. You could end up with the Republicans picking up, 10, 15 seats in the Senate, 50 to 100 seats in the House. It could be a bloodbath. So they're worried about, I think they've accepted that they're not going to win the White House. What they're worried about now is how big of a hit are they going to take in Congress, in the House and the Senate. And if you get a Bernie Sanders nomination for the Democratic Party, you could literally lose hundreds of seats in the Congress, just in the very fact that people will not be showing up to vote. Democrats and independents will either stay home or vote for Trump. And if they stay home or vote for Trump, they're likely either, if they're staying home, they're not voting for Democrats for Congress. And if they're voting for Trump, they're probably voting for Republicans in Congress as well, because they want to stop the far left-wing agenda of Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren. So what they're worried about, I think they've accepted they're going to lose the White House. I think they understand that. But what they're concerned about and why they're having these meetings and why they're so freaked out is because they understand that they could suffer a bloodbath in both houses of Congress in 2020. That's what's behind this. Trump's approval is up 3% since the Senate impeachment trial has started. He's gone from 46 to 49% just since the Senate trial has begun. So he's now up to 49% approval, and that's making him practically unbeatable. Of course, we had Lindsey Graham coming out saying that he would vote against sending a subpoena to the Bidens. He says that he would look into the Bidens, but he would do that in some other way, not during this. Again, that's just what you would expect from Lindsey Graham. We know that just a couple of days ago, after Schiff got through into hearings, Lindsey Graham came over and shook his hand, told him he did a good job, and told him he was very well spoken. That's Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's been promising a lot of things for a long time. He's promised to get to the bottom of the FISA. He's going to call everybody in. He promised to get to the bottom of the dossier. He's done nothing. So when he says that, no, now's not the time to bring in the Bidens, we'll do that later, I don't think anybody really believes him. This is what Rand Paul was talking about, and this is who Rand Paul was talking about. Laura Ingraham did a story the other night, on Wednesday night, about the DNC operative, Alexandra Chalupa, and how she was working with the fake whistleblower, Eric Sharamella, to force Ukrainian officials to turn over or compose anti-Trump narratives for the Demo-Commie Party. There's a Ukraine embassy official, Andrei Telezinko, who told Gateway Pundit that he was approached by DNC operative Alexandra Chalupa in March or April of 2016, asking him to help find dirt on Trump and Paul Manafort. Yes, that's why I said she'd be one of the key people I would call in the Senate hearings. Chalupa is a key person in the Ukraine part of the plot, and keep in mind, she was working for the DNC and the Clinton campaign when she originally started this stuff. She then, to draw fire away from the DNC and the Clinton campaign, resigned from the DNC as an employee and became a paid consultant. But she was still doing the same thing, working for the same people, being paid by the same people. It was just an effort to cover her tracks, but it's not going to work. Because we know everything that happened. It's well documented in my timeline. It's well documented by many other people. Ultimately, we're going to find out a lot more about this, and it leads right back to the Rotten Reverend. That's where it leads back to. So that's an important story there, which will continue to have fallout as well. And, you know, I would almost rather have Chalupa brought in front of the Senate impeachment trial rather than the Bidens. I mean, I would say the whistleblower, Chalupa, and this Lesko guy. That's the three people I would bring in. But, you know, the Bidens, sure, let's bring them in. But I would say my priority would be Chalupa and these other two characters. We're looking at that race now down in Alabama. It looks like Tommy Tuberville, who is, of course, a very popular coach for Alabama and the state of Alabama, has now closed the gap to within 4 points on Jeff Sessions in that Senate race. It's now showing Sessions 35, Tuberville 31. It's very good news. I'm no fan of Sessions. I still blame him and his weakness for how we got to where we are right now. Seen enough of Jeff Sessions. And I would much prefer Tommy Tuberville over Sessions. I know he's got a backbone and a spine. We had Jonathan Turley going on NBC, telling the NBC libs on NBC that the Demo-Commie impeachment will go down in history as one of the greatest historic blunders of ever in the House of Congress, in the houses of Congress. We also have a little bit of follow-up on Halper. Of course, Grassley is looking into Halper and the Office of Net Assessment. He has requested documents. Of course, we know that Halper recorded conversations with Papadopoulos, Page, and Sam Clovis. Grassley also wants to know if the O&A was aware of Halper's ties to Trubnikov, who is also one of Steele's sources, allegedly. Halper got info from Trubnikov, so did Steele. I'm kind of wondering if, again, I think that Halper might much more likely to have been a source for that Trubnikov stuff a lot more than Steele himself. Now, Grassley and Johnson are doing their thing, but they can't really do anything. I don't put a lot of faith in the Congress. They haven't proven to be able to do anything really. But Nunes has done some pretty good work, but mostly in the Congress, you get nothing really out of these people. The place to focus on is John Durham's investigation. He's into all this. There's a lot to dig into here, but I'm confident that John Durham will get to the bottom of it. And again, we are seeing the cracks in the dam are amazing right now. It's just the dam is breaking apart. It's just a matter of time. It's all falling apart on them now, and pretty soon we're not far away from getting the truth, the whole truth about what actually happened, and it is going to be absolutely devastating for the perpetrators. A lot of people are going to jail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.